Hello everybody and welcome to part 2 of SCP-610. If you haven't seen part 1, I would really advise you actually go and watch it, else you're not going to understand any of this. You can find links to the cards, the description, most likely the suggested videos, and there's a playlist on the channel as well. Right, let's get into this. SCP-610-L2. During construction of the perimeter surrounding SCP-610's containment area, several Class D personnel were infected due to assaults from infected villagers or animals roaming in the area, in addition to a number of infections as a result of escape attempts and careless behaviour. Most of these infected personnel were immediately destroyed with flamethrowers. However, a small collection of infected were contained in cold storage units, which prolonged the inevitable progression of SCP-610's mutative properties. The decision was made to utilise some of these infected personnel as video relays and dispatch them into nearby sites. Due to the concern over loss of equipment as evidenced in SCP-610-L1, all 3 subjects that were used in this manner were sent in with a single video system to Site C. Additional equipment issued for this dispatch include a 1-gallon container of gasoline, 3 emergency flares, 3 9mm pistols with 3 magazines of ammo each, 3 single-serving food rations. The infected personnel were instructed to observe and avoid interaction with the infected villagers for as long as possible, but should a situation arise where they are met with aggression or feel they are losing themselves to SCP-610's influence, they are free to kill as many infected villagers as they so choose, and do as much damage to infected objects and property as possible while maintaining video feed. The intent of this order was to provide data of SCP-610 infected communities in a raid situation so a plan of eradication could be better established. At the time of this expedition, Site C was suspected to be a possible origin point for SCP-610, having far fewer mobile infected than other sites, as well as structures which appear to have been layered over several times with the terraforming effects of the immobile infected. Dispatched Class D personnel, known henceforth as DI-1, DI-2 and DI-3, were directed to pay particular attention to anything that could be considered an origin point of SCP-610. The trek from our perimeter camp to Site C was uneventful. There is no evidence of any native animal life in the area. As Site C is approached, there is a noticeable rise in temperature within the last 30 meters of the trip that necessitates removal of the heavy cold-based coverings that were provided. The temperature rises again sharply at the entrance to Site C proper, which requires a further shedding of garments for fear of heat stroke. Temperatures within Site C are described as being heavily humid and around 32 degrees Celsius. One of the first immediately noticed traits about Site C is an array of immobile pylons which encircle what is believed to be the entirety of the site. Separated by an apparent distance of 5 to 6 meters, each pylon appears to be 2 to 4 infected persons fused together in one spot. On some of these pylons, features such as faces and anuses are still visible in addition to several other holes which do not naturally occur, all appearing to act as heat vents. Where the heat is generated is unknown. Current belief is that this is an advanced stage of SCP-610 terraforming its environment to facilitate the spread of itself. DI-2, who was furthest along in progression of SCP-610 of the 3 by a number of hours, begins to seizure after only a few minutes in Site C during examination of the pylons. The progression to the scar tissue phase of SCP-610 infection is observed in full course as DI-2 spasms on the ground, his entire body being overtaken by the sickly tan flesh almost entirely after 45 seconds. DI-2 is terminated by a gunshot from DI-1 and his equipment left where it is. The spread of SCP-610 over DI-2 continues even after death of the body until all movement ceases. As Perimeter Control is relaying new instructions to DI-2 and DI-3 regarding this situation, there is a shift in the ground covering in Site C where DI-2's body is. Video feed shows the flesh-like growth splitting open beneath his body and a series of rotary tentacles coming from within the gap to pull his corpse inside. This opening closes up quickly. Total time elapsed 3 seconds. As DI-1 and DI-3 decide to act quickly in the hotter temperatures fearing the same fate, they proceed to the village centre and encounter another previously unknown phenomenon. In the precise centre of the town, rising above what was the community well, is a sphere suspended by angled supports comprised of SCP-610 flesh. This ball is riddled with the features of humans in the early stages of SCP-610 infection, as well as a good number assumed to be in later stages. A number of specimens of non-human life forms such as deer and bears are also visible within the mass. The entire sphere of flesh pulses at roughly a 5-second interval, and with each pulse emits a ring of spore-like material from its equator. This material floats to the ground and appears to be absorbed into the converted environment. D13 begins to douse the sphere with the provided gasoline, and when questioned by a panicking Di-1, explains this looks like as good a thing as any to burn. At this point, perimeter control has ceased giving commands due to the rapid deterioration of events. There is no reaction from anything within Site C to any of this activity until the precise moment at which a lit emergency flare is applied to the spherical mass, which immediately goes up in flames. The remote feed plays back a noise from an unknown location that seems to come from a location far outside of Site C, but was reported as being heard even at perimeter control by both Site C and A. This noise is described as both explosive, as if multiple high-yield charges were detonated on a mountainside, and alive, like a large feral creature roaring. Within 15 seconds following this sound's dissipation, Site A reported that a series of explosions had occurred within the village. 5 seconds after this report, the spherical mass in the middle of Site C explodes. Di-1 and Di-3 are thrown by the blast. Di-3 is confirmed deceased by Di-1 after regaining his footing, having suffered injury from stone shrapnel from the well. Di-1 is able to report he has bruises and ringing of ears, but aside from the rapidly spreading SCP-610 infection, he suffered no blast damage. During this recording of footage, Di-1 had his video equipment removed and was looking into it. Due to the angle of recording, it is unknown precisely what occurred in Site C, but something draws Di-1's attention back to the centre of town where he stares for several moments, then is pulled in the opposite direction. The video equipment falling to the ground and recording a skyward direction. The last moments of footage from Di-1's video unit display a humanoid figure moving through the air, followed by the sound of an impact in the same direction. Within 3 seconds of this event, an unknown creature steps upon the recording video equipment and destroys it. Perimeter control remained on high alert for a full 24 hours at all locations within any incident following this event. SCP-610-L3. The destruction caused by the rapid collapse of Site C exploration attempt during SCP-610-L2 resulted in a series of unexpected events in Site A. As the strange spherical formation in Site C was burned and destroyed, the SCP-610 infected inhabiting Site A were recorded by aerial drones going into seizures and convulsions. The immobile SCP-610 infected rapidly shriveled and died, along with all the flesh material spread across inanimate objects within the village. The mobile SCP-610 infected were able to regain their footing, all proceeded to what appears to have formerly been an upper-class residence and entered in the building. As the infected entered this dwelling, it suffered a foundational collapse, revealing the presence of a sinkhole beneath it. The size of the hole in relation to the structure above it posed an impossibility for an entire building to collapse, suggesting something within the hole applied force directly to the structure with the intent to pull it inside and expose the hole. The revealed hole is approximately large enough to accommodate 3 grown men standing shoulder to shoulder. Light sources applied by remote drones fail to penetrate further than 4 meters deep into the hole. Objects dropped into the hole do not produce an impact sound, suggesting a bottom potentially more than 1,000 meters down. Research of the exterior of Site A hole was only to be able to be carried out for 2 hours' time. Samples of the atmosphere in Site A indicated a complete death of SCP-610 related materials. All infectious life that did not evacuate into the hole died above ground and quickly became shriveled husks. Manned exploration of Site A was approved and commenced immediately. In the span of 30 minutes, a total of 3 research teams consisting of 2 to 3 research staff and 4 to 5 armed escort each were dispatched and setting up stations within the remains of the village. Samples of deceased SCP-610 infected and converted matter were sent back to the Perimeter HQ for processing and transport. One team was able to recover a small sample of still living SCP-610 tissue substance from a building and pack it for research. Within the second hour of exploration of Site A, a series of echo reverberation units were set up surrounding the hole with the intent of getting an accurate mapping of the hole and possible branch tunnels. At the end of this second hour before the echo units could be activated, seismic activity began to occur within Site A. 2 teams of the original 3 remained on site, the third en route to Perimeter HQ with samples. The third team was instructed to proceed back to the perimeter HQ when seismic activity began, and was told that Site A should not be returned to for assistance. Seismic activity in Site A capped at 2.3 Richter level before petering off. Immediately following the seismic events, a torrent of SCP-610 spores erupted from the ground and layered the area around it for a span of 50 meters. As all staff on site were in Level A hazardous materials suits, this spore burst was startling but did not lead to any infections. As the eruption was being reported, both teams at Site A came under attack from aerial lifeforms infected with SCP-610. These organisms were captured by the remote drone video equipment and showed extremely advanced stages of infection. It is impossible to tell what they mutated from to this present state. Many of the avian creatures attacked by splitting their heads in half and clamping them around research members, pulling them into the air and dropping them into the hole when possible. These avian infected proved vulnerable to small arms fire. In dispatching them, a total of 2 research staff were lost to the hole and 1 injured during the crossfire. The injured staff was put down immediately upon showing signs of infection due to his suit breach. Before video and radio contact was lost with the remaining teams inside Site A, a second seismic event began to occur, starting out in the 1 to 1.5 range in scale. Attention was directed at the hole to prepare for a second assault. A second spore burst erupted from the hole during the rising seismic activity. At the point where scales registered a 3 to 3.5 in force, a new unseen SCP-610 entity began to emerge from the hole. The only footage captured of this creature depicts an engorged human head, approximately 20 times larger than a normal, pressing itself out of the hole with no discernible body. Video and radio contact were lost as seismic forces increased to 7 on the scale for 2 seconds during then abruptly ceased. Further aerial surveillance of Site A hole and the area depicts 0 activity and no trace of the research teams or their ever having been there. All personnel and equipment are considered lost. Part 3 is going to be coming out soon. Be sure to check out my social media outlets to get updates on when the next video is going to be coming out. And if you can't wait that long, consider becoming a Patreon. You'll get access to all the images from the next video as they're completed, Patreon exclusive news, upload schedules, new collabs that are going to be going on, all of that. And special thanks to Ethan and Hulk, your pledges are very much appreciated. Thank you all for watching guys, and I'll see you very soon.